George Pickens got traded very early this morning, and I get it. It's an interesting thing to be talking about right here on the Packers Report because it's between the Steelers and the Cowboys. However, I do have a little bit of a thought that this could lead to some ripple effects that affects Green Bay and affects Green Bay's wide receiver room. Welcome to the Packers Report, everybody. I am your host, Joey Peterson. So delighted to have each and every one of you guys with us here today. So the question now that comes after the George Pickens trade is, will Pittsburgh now turn to target somebody else, and could that somebody else be Romeo Doubs? I'm going to break down that possible trade, why it would be Doubs on today's episode. Stick around. Make sure you keep hanging out with us. But before that, I got to turn some attention to our May sub battle because Vikings now is in the lead, but only by 2 subscribers, all righty? We're not that far behind. I need you guys to do me one big favor. Hit that sub button, the big red one right under the video. Join us for everyday coverage of the Green Bay Packers. It's 100% free. Does not cost you a dime. You don't go on any mailing list or anything like that. Hey, goes to a good cause. Beating Our Vikings Now channel. If you haven't yet, join us today. So, the question that stems off of my previous question is, why would the Pittsburgh Steelers target Romeo Doubs? Like, that kind of just seems like a random name thrown out of thin air. Well, Pittsburgh is still in very deep belief that they will at one point land Aaron Rodgers. And they need to surround him with talent, so why not go to a guy he's at least played with before? You look at their wide receiver room at the current state, and it is bad, ladies and gentlemen. George Pickens not in that lineup means Robert Woods is the second best wide receiver on the team. Calvin Austin, the third best wide receiver on the team. DK Metcalf, obviously I still have a lot of faith in him. I think he's a really good player. He's going to do great things in Pittsburgh, but still, that room is not good enough. Not even close. And it's not like their running back room is anything to really write home about either. And so if they're believing that they're going to get Aaron Rodgers and they want to get Aaron Rodgers, they're going to need to surround him with some kind of talent in the wide receiver room outside of DK Metcalf. In the one season that Romeo Doubs had with Rodgers, it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was his rookie year. He was a 4th-round selection. And so for a rookie 4th-round pick, getting 42 catches, 425 yards, 3 touchdowns, and there's those 5 drops, but that's kind of something we've been able to expect from Romeo over the past couple of years. That's still not a bad season at all. In 13 games, to get 425 yards, their connection was not bad, right? They had a pretty decent connection on the field. And that's the big part of that statement, is their on-the-field connection was great. There were some things that popped up about their possible on-the-field connection. Now, I think these things got blown a little bit out of proportion, but still they were said. It was a news story in the news cycle for a little while, and it caught everybody's attention at the time, and now I think it's worthy to at least bring it back up when talking about these two uniting. Here's what Romeo Doubs had to say about Aaron Rodgers in 2022. I didn't have a chance to hang out with him, not one time. I mean, as far as being around 12, I'd say possibly it's always been football, in the building, on the practice field. Well, Aaron Rodgers, obviously, as Aaron Rodgers usually does, he wants to get his opinion out there. He said, now there's obviously ones you're closer with than other. The things that I'm thinking about and doing and spending my time doing are probably a little different than the 21 to 22-year-old. I love Romes. I enjoy playing with Romes. I enjoy our conversations. I enjoyed seeing his personality come out. And obviously, this got blown up way bigger than it was supposed to, right? A lot of people were saying, oh my gosh, is Romeo Doubs calling him a bad teammate? Everybody wanted Rodgers to respond. It was a big deal, and it truthfully was not that big of a deal, especially because at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers was old. Romeo Doubs is young, and he still is very young. But their connection was good enough, I think, for Pittsburgh to look back at that, see the current state of Green Bay's wide receiver room, and say, hey, they might be willing to at least listen to a trade. So coming up on today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about a Doubs trade. I'm going to show you what I think it would look like. We're going to break down what would happen to Green Bay after that and if I think they would do it or not. But before that, make sure you guys do one thing for me. And if you want the Packers to trade Doubs, if you want them to get a little bit something in return for a guy that we might not think is going to be here much longer than the season's, do me one big favor, like today's video, okay? Cast your vote in that way. If you want the Packers to trade Doubs, like the video. Alrighty, here's what the trade would look like. So the Steelers would receive Romeo Doubs. the Packers would receive a 2026 fifth-round selection. It's not a lot, like when you automatically just look at it on that first instance. You're kind of left possibly saying, I would like a little bit more for a guy like Romeo Doubs. And it really leaves me with two thoughts, okay? I've got two opinions on this. My thought number one is don't trade him. Let him play. Take the comp pick the year after. Because if he does play out this year, this is the final year on his deal, and then he leaves somewhere in free agency, somebody signs him else in free agency, you're going to get a compensatory draft pick for him. Now, the best it could be is like a fourth. I would take that. Hell, I'd even take the fifth. If you're going to get a fifth for trading him, might as well just get the fifth and have him play one extra year. And at the same time, you got to look at the current situation of the offense, who the quarterback is, and you want to surround that guy with as much talent as you can. It's exactly why you drafted Matthew Golden. It's exactly why you drafted Savion Williams, right? I'm all in the business of surrounding my star quarterback, my franchise quarterback, with as many weapons on offense in the wide receiver room or in the running back room as I possibly can. And if you deal Romeo Doubs, that takes away one of those weapons. Takes away one of the guys that Jordan Love has, had a pretty good connection with. But then I have thought number two. You've got a good wide receiver room now. Something we haven't been able to say in a very, very long time. And of those in that wide receiver room, his ceiling is probably the lowest. So at that point, you're like, might as well just see if you can get something for him. Take that fifth-round pick. As it stands right now, he's a starter in this offense, but I believe that Savion Williams can do a lot of the same things that Romeo Doubs can, and he's younger, and he's got, I think, a little bit higher of a ceiling because his size mixed with his speed. Jaden Reed, I think, of all the wide receivers, is the one that they want to keep. They're not going to deal Christian Watson because nobody's going to trade for Christian Watson because he tore his ACL 4 months ago. And then obviously Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, those are the two untouchables in my opinion. So then you look a little bit more into a trade and why you would do that. I got 3 reasons why, okay? He had 2 concussions in 2024. So you could take the risk, like I talked about earlier, and say, let's just run it back. You're going to get a comp pick for him anyway. Well, say you run it back, he gets another concussion in 2025. Is someone going to sign him in the offseason, or are they going to be too worried about the medicals? Too worried about how that would check out. Also, he was suspended for a game last year for throwing a hissy fit, for not getting the ball enough. Didn't show up to practice, didn't show up to meetings, got suspended because of it. And so now you might look at that as this is an easy and natural exit ramp for a player that you might have wanted to exit from anyway. Just in this case, you get something back for it for next year's draft, and it's a little bit more natural. It's a little bit easier. They're wanting to get guys surrounded for Rodgers. They want to get guys in that wide receiver room. He had troubles with injuries. He got suspended last year. This might be the time you're saying, okay, we can offload this guy. We can get this guy off the roster. It's easy to do it right now. If you look at that trade, I need you guys to do one thing for me. Let me know if you would accept it, okay? Romeo Doubs for a 5th-round pick. If you'd accept it, give me an A in the comment section down below. But if you wouldn't, let me know by giving me a D for decline right now. So my take on it is I would probably accept this trade. I'm pretty sure I would. But if they don't accept it, I think I would understand. And I don't think I'd be that upset about it, right? You're not going to hear me pounding my fists on the table saying, man, they absolutely missed their shot to offload Romeo Doubs because at the end of the day, it's just a 5th-round pick, and you're most likely going to be able to get that or something possibly even better if he goes and signs elsewhere in free agency, which at this point, I kind of expect that to be what's going to happen. I kind of expect that as his future. So with Christian Watson out of the lineup, at least until probably late November, early December, I don't know if it's in your best interest as an offense to get rid of one of your veteran wide receivers. Because you brought in Matthew Golden, you brought in Savion Williams. Those 2 guys, I believe, are going to be absolute stars, especially Golden. But if you get rid of Doubs, then Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks are really the only 2 other guys in that wide receiver room that you, A, have any sort of trust in, and B, This isn't their first year in the National Football League. So I don't know how like well that sets up your offense going into 2025. But if they did it, I'd understand as well. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button before we get on out of here. We'll bring you daily coverage on your favorite team in green and gold. If anything happens with Romeo Doubs, we're going to have it as quickly as we can right here on the channel. So if that does happen, just in case, make sure to lock us in.